Welcome to yet another episode of Courage Talks. Today, I have not just a guest, but a dear friend, fitness enthusiast, Ultraman, fitness trainer, multiple Ironmans. The list goes long for Abhishek Mishra. I'll let Abhishek complete his introduction.
Thank you, Hital, for calling me here for this podcast. And so I'm into endurance sports from last 15 years, almost 1.5 decades now. Before that, I was into corporate job. I worked for almost 5.5 years with 2 or 3 corporates, and then I left my job. I started my life full time into endurance sports. I was into marathons, running half or full marathons, then went into ultra running, then went into triathlons, then doing Ironman triathlon. Got selected for ULTRAMAN Triathlon race to represent India in 2017. Finished that, then tried summarizing the entire experience in a book. So I'm a published author, wrote a book in 2018 called Run to Realize. Then I started giving corporate, I'll not say talks, they're majorly like storytellers where I try to tell people what all I learned in this journey of, endurance sports. That I'm still doing and pursuing with corporate. I started a company which was into sports consulting firm. We are still into sports consulting. We used to have sports IPs like marathons and triathlons in India. I did a reality TV show with Akshay Kumar and with the Jamwal for Discovery. And then here and there, a few brand promotions and all those things. Now I'm also into coaching people for triathlons and endurance sports with the name of Sweat Garage. So that's few of the things which I'm doing in life.
Well, introduction is a way. Well,
Yeah.
I'll let you complete the introduction because even though I know you, but I don't know enough of you. And that's why I
Mhm.
love getting my friends on these podcasts because I
Yep.
get to know a different facet of everyone when I get them on the show. So Abhishek, the talk is courage. Courage या साहस आप जो भी बोलो. The background story is obviously my book Against All Odds, which is my dad's biography. And in my dad's biography, I came across many instances of courage from daily life, which I felt were very important for the world to know. And that's how the whole idea of Courage Talks came about. I wanted other people to know, share their own stories about courage. So, what does courage mean to you?
I think for me, courage means acceptance because that's where I think everything changes. Acceptance, and acceptance could be in any field. The first question which was asked to me in 2014, year 2014, when I left a job, I was working with the US MNC, General Electric, right? And when I left my job, the first question which everybody in the society was asking that, how did you got this courage to leave your job? Because leaving a job and pursuing something where financially there's a difference, how did what gave you the courage? And the whole reason I could leave the job or the courage I got was accepting the fact that whatever I need, I can still get it from what I'm going to do next, right? Accepting the fact that even if I'm not able to, say survive this endurance sports journey for say 1 year, I might come back to the corporate life. That acceptance of I was earning almost say around 80,000 per month, and I knew that if I'll take a gap of 1 year and if I'll come back, I might not get the same package. So, the acceptance that if I need 40 in my life and if I'm getting 80, if I have to start after a gap of 1 year, I'm okay to start that job with 50,000 rupees also. So, accepting those facts is what courage means to me. And then that is what there, when we started doing triathlons and I learned swimming 4 months before my first Ironman race, right? I think that courage of, and when I published it on my social media saying that in 2015 September on my birthday, I'm going to do the first Ironman triathlon. We didn't have many people, hardly 5, 7, 10 Indians who had done it. So किसी को पता नहीं था कि क्या होता है race. So when they said कि it's a 3.8 kilometer swim in ocean, they said, how did you get the courage? Because that acceptance of fear of why you are afraid of the whole reason of having that fear in swimming in ocean is drowning and dying, right?
Yeah.
But as soon as I knew that I had a wetsuit and I went in the water and I could see that I can float, I accepted the fact that boss, I'm not going to go die because of this. So that gave me the courage to. So I think for me, if you ask me how I'll define courage, I think that's accepting whatever is coming to you. And once you accept, half of the things get sorted. Yeah. Right.
Start accepting and start accepting.
Right.
हम लोग expectations से इतना अपने onboarding कर रहे थे. And I think the corporate life का वजह आपकी उसकी आप perfect है. जब आप कुछ चीज वॉलंटरी जॉब कर रहे हो, आपको पता है कि उस चीज को आपको वापस पाने में कोई दिक्कत नहीं आती है. तो आप खुशी खुशी सोचते हो. हमको लगता है
और
कि हमको
इसमें
वापस मिलेगा नहीं, इसलिए हम पकड़ के रखते हैं उसको और छोड़ नहीं
like,
पाते।
so what happens generally I believe is people the जो आपने बोला ना जो हमारे ऊपर burden होता है वो social I think that burden is also because of not accepting the fact कि जो आप कर रहे हो वो किसके लिए कर रहे हो. Right?
Yeah.
When I posted saying that I'm going to do a triathlon in September, and that was almost 7 months before, people started putting me in doubt, saying, "How will you do it? You don't know how to swim. Swimming आती नहीं करेगा कैसे उसमें तो 4 किलोमीटर की swimming है." Right? And these were those people who were trying to learn swimming for 1 year, but they couldn't learn. So now their failure, or what I'll not call it failure, but their incompetency of learning swimming in 1 year, they put that thing on my mind because they wanted to pass it on, right? They did not wanted to accept कि यार हम नहीं सीख पाए. And they passed it on to me and said that अगर हमने नहीं सीखा हम 1 साल से try कर रहे हैं, how will you learn in 4 months, right? And that is the point where you have to understand why are you doing it, right? And if that why is clear, I think you'll have the courage to move ahead even if people are doubting, because you know कि यार ठीक है वो उनका जर्नी था, वो उसका लाइफ था, उसका डिसीजन था, उसका ट्राई. आई वॉज नॉट स्टैंडिंग एट द पूल टू सी कि यार उसने 50% दिया, 10 दिया, 20 दिया, 200 दिया. आई नो कि मैं 100% देके सीख सकता हूँ. आई थिंक दैट ऑल्सो गिव्स द करेज. एंड इफ वी नो दैट ओके इफ फॉर स्टूडेंट सपोज व्हेन वी वर इन स्कूल एंड कॉलेज, आई थिंक
Yeah.
हमारा वो कंपेयर करने का तरीका गलत होता था कि यार मैं कोचिंग करने आया हूँ और मेरा तो 89% आया बट दूसरे का 95 है. हम ये देखना भूल जाते हैं कि जो 95 वाला है वो 90 से 95 गया है, मैं तो 50 पे था, मैं अब
Yeah.
89 पे आया हूँ. So we don't compare that journey, and I think that is what creates doubt, and people don't get courageous to take steps in their life.
Yeah. Yeah. ये जो आपने बोला ना 4 महीने थे आपके पास स्विमिंग करने के लिए, और जो एक साल करते हैं वो नहीं कर पाते, तो उनके लिए विड्रॉल सिम्टम्स का पीरियड भी बढ़ जाता है. एक साल में
Correct.
वेरिएंस आने के चांस बढ़ जाते हैं, इंजरी के चांसेस आ
True.
जाते हैं, फैमिली
True.
सर्कमस्टेंसेस आ जाए. तो मेरा भी यही था, मेरा आयरमैन की प्रैक्टिस 2 महीने की थी. अब 2 महीने में क्या होगा, कुछ नहीं होगा. अगर मैं 2 साल
Correct.
करता है, 6 महीने करता, तो चांसेस ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स वुड हैव increased as well, right? So in
True.
a
True.
way,
True.
you were smart enough to reduce the chances of failure because you kept that period so short in terms of
Correct.
preparation. Any role model? A lot of people look up at you. Whom do you look up at?
I'll I'll not say. See, role model is something I think
Someone
which kept on
inspires you.
changing. Yeah, changing because my life has been changing a lot. Initially I'm very open and blunt in saying this. Till my college days, I had no goals in my life. तो यही मैं लोगों से कहता हूँ कि यार पहले ना जब हमसे व्हेन आई वाज इन माय स्कूल डेज डूइंग इंजीनियरिंग मास्टर्स, आई यूज्ड टू टेल स्टोरीज टू रन अवे फ्रॉम पीपल. लोग कहते थे कि अरे स्कूल में क्या कर रहा है, पढ़ाई नहीं कर रहा है. आई सेड नो नो नो, डोंट वरीज, आई विल गेट इनटू इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज, आई विल डू इंजीनियरिंग, तब सब सही हो जाएगा. फिर इंजीनियरिंग में आया, वहां भी ढंग से पढ़ाई नहीं करी. देन आई ट्राइड टू डू एमबीए. देन आई टू टेल पीपल कि नो नो, इंजीनियरिंग में तो नौकरी नहीं लगती, एमबीए किया है, आई विल डू समथिंग बेटर. यू ऑलवेज टेलिंग स्टोरीज टू रन अवे. आई हैड few people who were like always very inspiring. One of my very close and best friend Milind Suman, he's a role model in many things which I've learned from him. When we started training together in 2012-13, we used to run together, do swimming, cycling, everything. He was also new to triathlon, I was also new, so we both were like common. And that also I think helped me a lot because he never portrayed himself as somebody who has been a celebrity, supermodel, actor, xyz blah, or a national champion swimmer. We both were novice to this world of triathlon when we started, and I think that helped me a lot.
You were the far better swimmer than you.
Yeah. Oh, way far better. Like I remember, he swam after 25 years, and he
अच्छा.
finished 4 kilometers in 1.5 hours, and I'm like, oh, okay. So that was interesting. So he was one. Then obviously, as an endurance athlete, if you ask me, or as an endurance runner, Kipchoge is one I think who has inspired a lot of people, being a farmer and then a runner. So he's
Yeah.
also another role model in my life. I look up to the way he is, the humility which is there in the silence, the calmness which is. I think the most beautiful thing. He's so calm. You see him after the run, you see him before the run. That calmness which is there on his face is something which is very, very inspiring. So yeah, that's another guy.
No, that's very good point that you mentioned, right? Milind जहाँ पे भी हो, आपके साथ जब आयरमैन की ट्रेनिंग कर रहा है, he is same level as you, and that gives you a lot of confidence that someone like
It
Milind
does.
Suman is acting normal, right? Because he's got a new target which is same as your target. Then parity
Correct.
आ जाती है उसमें. That's true.
Yep.
So we know you today, but we don't know what were you like as a child. So take us down memory lane. Were you as naughty then as you are now?
I don't know if I'm naughty, but yeah. So I've been always very hyperactive. मतलब पढ़ाई तो खैर दूर दूर तक कोई रिश्ता नाता नहीं होता था, but I was very hyperactive. My dad used to work with Coal India, so they were in the open coal mine, so they used to go in their jeep जो उनको लेने आती थी, the government quarters we had. And I'm born and brought up near Varanasi area, in UP. So मुझे याद है वो जून की मई जून की जो समर वेकेशन होती थी उसमें टेम्परेचर यूज टू बी 40-45 डिग्रीज। और जैसे उनकी जीप आई और बैठे और हमें सुनाई दिया कि अच्छा अब वो जीप 1-2 किलोमीटर दूर है। मॉम सो रही है, हमने वो पीछे के घर के दीवार फांदी और पेड़ चढ़े और इधर उधर निकल गए और जंगलों में घूम रहे हैं या फिर ऐसे पूरे धूप में ग्राउंड में कोई नहीं है, 3 बजे दोपहर में खेल रहे हैं। सो आई हैव ऑलवेज बीन वेरी हाइपर एक्टिव एंड आई थिंक दैट इज अनदर that's something which got channelized in endurance sports. That I and during my college days also, I wanted to do lots of this extracurricular activities in school, colleges. So talking to anybody, though I'm very introvert, if you ask me to go and introduce myself to somebody, that's where I become very introvert because I don't know why. But once I'm friendly with somebody, then I can obviously go and express myself as much as I can. So I'm an extrovert, but yeah, sometimes I become introvert. I was very talkative that time, now also, but yeah, the way and the points have switched. Like I said ना, पहले मैं story सुनाता था भागने के लिए, अब सुनाता हूँ inspire करने के लिए. So that thing has changed. I was into sports. Yes, I was into sports a lot. In my college days also, I used to go and play national level football matches and tournaments in the country. And I think that's what was missing in 2009. And then I started running in 2010. And that's where things changed. But हाँ, एक मतलब बड़ा ही below average in studies, शैतान, naughty नहीं बोलूंगा, शैतान था.
So you mentioned about your parents. The story about your parents or which stays with you, something which has always been a source of inspiration for you.
My mother has always been very inspiring and supporting, because we come from a family where, in 80s, my father did his diploma and he went into engineering and he joined Coal India. My mother is a housemaker. And during that time, जब वो village में रह के लोग, their upbringing used to be in that remote areas. The studies or education was not that much. Whatever they learned from the cultural and social upbringing which happened there. So the decisions which she used to take for whatever I was not willing to study, but I said I want to do engineering, and she was there standing. So she has been very inspiring, but nobody in my family was ever into sports. So except that my grandfather was very, I'll say, active. Even the day he died, a day before, he walked almost 4-5 kilometers. He used to walk 2 hours in the morning, 1.5 hours in the evening. But yeah, in terms of sports, if you ask me, there was nobody who could inspire me in my family for the sports. But yeah, to take my day-to-day daily life decisions, how to treat people, how to be helpful to people or have empathy for people. That is which I've got from my parents. Be it my dad, my mom, for unknown people, they're always there supporting them or helping them. And my dad did a lot when he was into different projects, be it cultural project, or about getting a temple made or getting somebody a job. So I think that character I got from him, which I feel is very inspiring if you can go out and help somebody who's in need of help.
So होता है लंच में जब करने की बात आती है तो पता चलता है what we did sign up for. Right? So
Correct.
share some interesting episodes, some aspects where you were stuck, you भटक गए. I know that famous cycle accident which you and Gaurav had, but I'm sure you have your own accidents to talk about as well.
Touch wood, I had never had any injury because of which I had to stop my say any of my event or sport. But yeah, I did had accidents. So see, the most famous thing, which or the most, I'll say, a funny thing which inspired me and keeps inspiring me now also. Where I say that when I was writing a book, I said a tired mind has no ego. So I remember my first ultra run. I was running, I ran 140 kilometers in the trails of Delhi NCR in 2013. And there, after running 80 kilometers, that was the first ultra run, right? Like you said, हम sign up तो कर देते हैं, पता नहीं क्या कर रहे हैं. And there, what happened that while running, I was all alone in the middle of the night. Okay. And I got scared from an animal which was sitting like say 10 meters ahead of me. And I couldn't move forward for 20 minutes. I kept on waiting कि कब जाएगा कब जाएगा कब जाएगा, and later on I found out that it's a rabbit, right? So that made me realize that okay, you know what, when you're tired and you can't think anything, what all can happen in your life. But those 20 minutes when I was standing there, what all happened in my life, that flashback was something which was very interesting. I started thinking, why am I doing this run? You know, यार इतना इतना क्यों करना है कुछ की मतलब आप आगे नहीं बढ़ पा रहे हो. You're tired, everything is paining, hurting, and from there we started going into a flashback, and I realized that that was the run where I realized that okay, I'm not made for corporate job, and I think I'm just doing it for sake of doing it and for paying bills. And after 3 months I resigned from my job. Similarly, I was running in Thar Desert in 2015, doing 160 miler 160-kilometer run. There also I got stuck. I ran without water for 8 hours in the desert because there was no water station. And when we reached to the station, वो होता है ना कि जब हमें कुछ अचानक से मिलता है तो हम उसको ऐसे समेटने लग जाते हैं. So I had one runner with me, Mimi, 55-year-old Guinness Book of World Record holder, ultra runner. She started her run immediately after finishing food, like in 10 minutes. I stayed there for 20 minutes, having extra food, fixing up my torch, everything. And by the time I started and we had to climb another hill, और जब हम ऊपर पहुंचे तो वहां कोई नहीं था. अब वो अमावस की रात, पूरा अंधेरा, कोई भी नहीं है. और दिमाग में आ रहा है कि यार इस एरिया में तो सिर्फ 3 चीजें हैं, कोबरा स्नेक, जाइंट लिजर्ड्स और स्कॉर्पियोज. और उस रात में अगर एक भी चढ़ गया पैर पे, दिख तो रहा नहीं, और टॉर्च की लाइट कितनी होती है जो आपके माथे पे, राइट? सो देयर ऑल्सो आई स्टार्टेड जस्ट रनिंग सो आई कैन रीच टू अ प्लेस वेयर देयर आर पीपल. और उस डर में मैं ऐसे झाड़ियों में घुस गया, नाक से ब्लड निकल रहा, बिकॉज देयर वर थॉर्न्स ऑफ दिस साइज. सो देन आई हैड ब्लड कमिंग फ्रॉम माय फोरहेड, नोज, चीक्स, पैर, सब जगह से खून निकल रहा है. एंड देन आई केम आउट अगेन, abusing these people who left me behind. And I kept on abusing for say almost 10 minutes. और जब मैं शांत हो गया, कितनी देर गाली दोगे आप, right? And when I was done shouting and everything, and then I realized yeah, it was not them. I decided to come and run this run. I decided to run with them. They actually were there with me when I was running without water for 8 hours. So it's my journey, my path. I have to find out. So there are multiple such things, and that's what I've written in that. That's the reason I thought of writing the book, Run to Realize Aspects of Life, because I call this chapter reaction versus response. Till the time I was reacting to the situation, नुकसान मेरा हुआ, चश्मा मेरा खोया, खून मेरे निकले, दर्द मेरा हुआ. And as soon as I started responding to that, वो जब गुस्सा खत्म हो गया, सब हो गया, then I found the path and I was ahead of these people. 60 kilometer mark के बाद 70 मैं पहले पहुंचा. So there are many such incidents. I think every endurance run or sport or event which I participate, it teaches something or the other. मैं अभी हैम्बर्ग में था. I was doing my 10th year of triathlon celebrating, and I go with 1 or 2 months of training because now I'll not say don't get time. I don't feel like training so much now. So I finished my swim in 122 something, 3.8 kilometer. I was cycling. अब वो मेरा व्हील में हल्का हल्का क्रैक था, जो पहले भी रहते थे. Somebody said change the tire, and I said यार, मतलब we cycled almost 100 plus rides हमने करी, 120 to 160 kilometers की, कुछ नहीं हुआ, not even a puncture. I said चल जाएगा टायर, क्या चेंज करना है, another 10,000 rupees you. नहीं चेंज किया. वहां पे रोड इतनी खराब थी कि वो घर 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 एक पॉट होल, 2 पॉट होल, एंड देन 69 किलोमीटर मार्क आई हैड cut in my tire. I couldn't continue my cycling. 2 पंक्चर हुए, फ्लैट हो गया, देखा तो टायर पूरा फटा हुआ था. So they didn't allow me to cycle because then I might fall also, next time when the puncture happens or something happens. And then I ran 42. But that also I learned, that even if you have done whatever number of things, your equipment is something. You cannot be ignorant of the fact that, okay, either you check with the roads, if not, then be prepared with it. So every race has something or the other to teach or inspire.
That's a beautiful thing you said, reaction and response, right?
Correct. And till the time you react, I think we go through our own losses. And if you sit back, and it happens in everyone's life, everybody will react till the time they get the maturity to understand. We react, and then we go through losses, and then we understand, and then we start responding, and then we get the courage to move ahead because now we are responding to the situation as per our say, environment or maturity or knowledge or whatever.
I think reaction is a big question. Like response, हर कोई response same तरीके से करते हैं.
Yeah,
Because
response will always be positive. Response will always be sincere. Response will, because वो thought through है, right?
Yeah.
Reaction is like Pepsi bottle, आपने shake problem हुई life में, खोला और वो उड़ गया. And response is always your water bottle. You keep इधर उधर हिलाया फेंका सब किया, but still remains calm and intact. So if you see both the bottles, अगर आप रिएक्शन के बाद देखोगे तो होता क्या है, बॉटल आधी थोड़ी सी बच जाती है, तो देयर इज नो, इट्स नॉट कंटेंट. रिस्पॉन्स में क्या होता है, यू स्टे कंटेंट, एंड इफ यू आर कंटेंट, आई थिंक दैट्स व्हाट विल हेल्प यू टू स्टे ग्राउंडेड, हम्बल, पॉजिटिव, हैप्पी ऑलवेज.
नहीं, अगर ये पंक्चर की बात ले लें, मेरा अपना खुद का एक्सपीरियंस रहा है फर्स्ट हाफ आयरन में. सो पंक्चर है, रिएक्शन इज अरे यार साला पंक्चर हो गया, क्या यार
करेक्ट.
नहीं हो रहा. रिस्पॉन्स इज भैया ठीक कर दो उसको, या गो टू द सपोर्ट स्टैंड, गेट इट डन एंड यू गेट मूव.
क्या,
मतलब तुम्हारे साथ हुआ है, उस पे आंसुओं बहाने से तुम्हारा पंचर तो ठीक होने वाला है नहीं.
हाँ, मतलब अगर आपको बनाना आता है, और इफ यू सी मैक्सिमम टाइम इट टेक्स इज 5 to 10 minutes इफ यू नो हाउ टू फिक्स इट. एंड बनाना क्या, बेसिकली ट्यूब चेंज करना है, हवा भरनी है और चल लेना है, राइट.
करेक्ट.
सो इफ यू आर प्रिपेयर्ड कि आपके पास CO2 पंप है, CO2 है, कैसे ट्यूब बदलना है, आपने प्रैक्टिस करी हुई है, तो आइडियली इफ यू लुक एट गुड साइक्लिस्ट, दे टेक 2.5 minutes or 2 minutes to change, fill and then start. नहीं जो है उसका 5. तो आई एम सेइंग अगर आप 6.5 घंटे में साइकिलिंग खत्म करने वाले थे, एक पंक्चर हो गया, तो 6:40 में कर लोगे, but still you are at the race. So yeah, that's true what you're saying, right?
Ironman, regardless of how many times you done, the first objective is to finish. Second is कि क्या time में हो रहा है.
Yeah, my objective always is to see. Now I still have some fear of open water swimming. Okay, now my objective of triathlons is a day when I jump into water without thinking कि यार सामने बॉय है कि नहीं, कायक वाला है कि नहीं, कुछ होगा तो कोई बचा लेगा कि नहीं बचा लेगा. It still crosses my mind for at least first 300-400 meter. 400 पे वार्म अप हो जाता है. I will keep on doing triathlons till I get rid of this fear, and I know that I can alone also, if I have to go, I can swim 1 kilometer and come back in the sea. So I'm waiting for that day.
Why do triathlon?
These three sports have become part of life because अगर ठंडी है, स्विमिंग पूल्स बंद है, आप रनिंग कर लो, साइकिलिंग कर लो. नहीं मन कर रहा रन करने का, पॉल्यूशन बहुत है, आप स्विम कर लो. अब so as a lifestyle, these three sports are very good. But I am moving into a new sport. I have decided to learn surfing, which is going to be all water. Yeah, so I'll be mostly down south this coming year, somewhere in Kovalam or Pondicherry, to learn surfing for the next 2-3 years, next 2-3 months, and then I'll go to different coastal areas in the world which are known for surfing, and let's see. Because one thing I learned in this endurance sports is that it requires a lot of patience, and that patience only will help you to respond to it. When I did the surfing for the first time, और जब वो आपको बोलते हैं ना बोर्ड पे बैठ के, surfing board पे, and you swim and you go till the point where you have to wait. Now when you're waiting for the wave and you keep looking behind thinking wave आ रही है नहीं आ रही है, आ रही है नहीं आ रही है, and then suddenly you see a wave, you try going and then you fall immediately. Now again you get down on the board, again go there. I did it for 4 hours. And if I look, they both have one thing which is very common, which is endurance. And that endurance can stay only if you are positive and patient of why you're doing it. Like up by ultra running races, I don't enjoy doing events of 100 kilometers because I think I don't have that patience of running 100. वो कर लिया, experience कर लिया, मजा आ गया, सब हो गया. I might love running 100 kilometer ऐसे ही, like one day I'll go and hit like चल यार कोयम्बटूर से यहाँ तक दौड़ते हैं, फिर वापस आएंगे एक दिन रुक के. I would like, let's go, but not like events per se. So that's why I'm going into, let's try a different sports. Life is not only about triathlons and ultra running.
Also about taking risks. I think one of the biggest risks for you was leaving GV and getting into sports.
Yep.
Any bigger risk? What is the biggest risk that you took in life?
See, the biggest risk that time was financial stability, right? I think one of the biggest risks is this only, especially in India, where we are fighting with so much of competition, population and all those things. I think one of the biggest risks when you leave job is this. But another advantage I had was that I had no other responsibilities, like being a single guy, you can take this risk. And at the age, like I left my job 10 years back in 2014. So that was the biggest risk. Apart from that, I had none because like I said that, I had the clarity of what I need in my life. And hence, I had the courage to take the step because I knew कि एक साल बाद वापस आके भी कुछ ना कुछ तो कर ही लूंगा life में. Yeah.
Putting back your emotion and any instance.
It has happened many times, but now if I'm trying to reconnect, I couldn't control my emotions. Yes, so when I did the reality TV show, right, it was for Discovery, where I got a call from their UK production house, and it was shot in India. It's called The Ultimate Warrior. So when I was doing that show, I went with a different intention. They said they're all sportsmen, but they're different kind of people, Instagram influencers and all. Where I didn't find that okay, I'm the right fit. Okay, it's not about the show. It's about that the kind of people who are doing the show. I'm not from the same genre, and we have done something very different in life, and this is not something which we are. There, I lost. I think yeah, I didn't have the courage to stay calm and understand why I'm here and then take a decision. I emotionally took a decision because of which I left the show after 3 episodes. Though they showed it in the show that every episode somebody has to leave. So they said Abhishek wants to leave, right? And that's where I learned something, because there was a MMA fighter B, and once I was out of the show and we were sitting in the evening and talking, and she said, "You were one of the candidates. We thought you'll go to the finale." And that teaches me one thing, that it's good to stay humble, but don't commit suicide, right? So what I did was committing suicide, and that was because I was vulnerable, right? I was going into that emotion of ये किया है, ये किया है, ये किया है life में. I was listening to an interview of Nana Patekar recently with a news channel, and where he said कि अभी जो past में किया उसको भूल जाओ ना, कर लिया Ironman, Ultraman कर लिया, वो सब हो गया, खत्म, it's past, right? If you keep living in that shoe कि ये किया था, तो next कुछ नहीं. If I kept on saying that, you know what, I've done Ironman, Ultraman, blah blah blah, I'll stay there only. I cannot become a surfer, or I
Yeah.
cannot become a mountaineer or a traveler. I have to forget about what is done in the past. It was a good experience. And that is what I should have forgotten when I was there in the show. There, I was there as a competitor, as a participant. I should have played along. But yeah, I was vulnerable that time. I think that taught me ki, boss, humble raho, suicide mat karo. Go there. If I'm not becoming a loss for somebody, why should I stay out of it? I will also give my 100% stay there.
That's a very good thing you said because you were up for. There was few people still wearing the medal.
Right.
चलो तो मैडम this is a big show सबको दिखाना था मुझे मैंने कहा चल मैं यार नहीं दिखाना था next day morning we were taking the flight people were still wearing medal हम इंडिया पहुंच गए people were still wearing medal मैंने कहा जब तक ये
Wow.
medal उतारेगा नहीं तब तक आगे नहीं बढ़ पाएगा
And I think that's where, when I go and share the story of my first Ironman triathlon, it taught me good things. Three things: fear, failure, success. So when I go and give the talk, I ask people, I said, "Do you have any definition for it?" And people have multiple stories, but nobody has a definition for it. A concrete definition, which you and I say a similar thing.
yeah.
So I say, success is if we treat it as a word, if Berlin Marathon, you treat it as an experience, that okay, I finished, I achieved what I wanted here.
Yeah.
I feel I'm successful. That's an experience. You will put the medal there, and now you will go for somebody else or something else or some other run, which is more tougher than that.
Yeah.
If I would have thought that I'm the Ironman of India and blah blah blah, मैं अल्ट्रामैन के लिए अप्लाई नहीं करता कभी, right? So I think we have to bring ourselves out of that shoe and keep on trying like new things. And that's why I'm still thinking after 2 years. I have a triathlon in my mind which I want to do. जहाँ सब बैंड बज जाएगी, Ironman, Ironman, and all those things. I think that's the toughest triathlon race which happens in the world. But we'll see. Once if I start training, I'll let people know.
Journey for a lot of athletes. It's not such a quick one. Anyone you want to take name of or cite and thank someone whose work and whose effort remains with you. I mean, someone whom you learned from, someone who's inspired you. कि यार ये बंदे ने सही किया.
Yeah, see, one thing which is missing in my journey nowadays, like not journey, but the kind of training I do is consistency. It could be work, I'll say, or I get lazy or जो भी है. But जो consistent effort मैंने 2011 से 2019 तक देखा था, or even 17, that is missing. It could be because it's not that important for me anymore. Abhi, I was training for last 1 year. I'm training, say, I almost train 10 to 11 people every year for different, mostly triathlon and ultra running races. And there's this guy called Ankur. Okay, Ankur Jain. उसको L3 और L4 type वो spine का problem है. While training 4 weeks before the race, he got hepatitis A infection, where doctor said कि तुम तो नहीं कर पाओगे event. The amount of consistency this guy showed was, and he got the result also, right? कि 6 महीने की ट्रेनिंग में 3 हफ्ते बिकॉज ऑफ बैक पेन नहीं कर पाया, वो जो डिस्क का इशू था, 2 हफ्ते 3 हफ्ते 6 हफ्ते चले गए उसके हेपेटाइटिस ए और पेन की वजह से, because he has been so consistent in the past training, and then 3 weeks before the race, that we had thought of 14 hour for 30 minutes, this guy finished his race in 14 hour 40 minutes. So I think he's been, though it's a very recent training of mine, but I felt that okay, he's somebody I can look up to and say, यार consistency ऐसे होनी चाहिए. He's a father of two kids. He has his own company into taxation and all. He keeps suffering between India and Dubai. But even after that, the kind of dedication and consistency he shows, I think it's worth acknowledging and learning from him.
Well, I'm a reader like me. Any book which you'd like to take an example of this? Any book which remains with you in terms of the lessons that you learned?
See, obviously, I'll tell people to read my book, Run to Realize, but I'm saying that apart from I've read Murakami, I've read other books, but there's one book called The Courage to be Disliked. Yeah, it's a conversation between a young 26, 27-year-old guy with another. Uh, I'll not say a psychologist, but yeah, philosopher. It's not a book somebody has written. It's like a conversation you're reading, and when you see the kind of questions the guy is asking to this guy, and they talk about two philosophies we have Freud and we have Adler's, which is one is teleology, one is etiology. Which is one is reaction and response based, and one is about future, what you want to become, and all those things. People should read that book. One, because we all have such questions which that guy is asking, and the kind of answers which is written there, 90% of us are about मेरे साथ ये हुआ past में इसलिए मैं ऐसा हूँ या मुझे ये नहीं मिला इसलिए मैं ऐसा हूँ, right? Nobody follows what Adler thinks. यार ठीक है, जो हो गया आज, कल तक था, कल रात 12 बजे तक, आज let's say ये बनना है, इसके लिए ये करते हैं. So when I was reading that book, that I have read it almost twice, and I think I might again go and start it. That book is both mind and heart. Such an amazing, and I laugh reading it. And then suddenly I think यार मैं भी ऐसा ही था. मैं भी ऐसी सोचता था कि मैं रूम के अंदर रहता हूँ बिकॉज बाहर वाले कुछ पूछेंगे तो क्या बोलूंगा. एंड देन वी से कि हम रूम के अंदर इसलिए हैं बिकॉज हमारे साथ लोगों ने ऐसा किया. So it has beautiful way of describing and answering to the problems we face in present world, and especially for the millennials or the Gen Zs who are coming right now. So that book is something I would recommend everybody, apart from my book, to read and your book to read.
I read that book almost 4 5 years back, but now you're inspiring me to.
Oh yeah. And I think another way why I like it is because it's a conversation. When you read the book, you don't feel like getting bored because it's a conversation. You're like, अच्छा इसने ये बोला, इसका आंसर क्या आएगा? Let me see कि ये क्या बोलता है इसके. Because ये question तो मेरे पास भी है अंदर, like that.
The conversation format typically works very well because it keeps two pace as far as the book
Correct.
systems.
Correct. वो ज्ञान सेशन नहीं लगता, वो conversation लगता है, and that makes it interesting because एक तरफ तो आपको एक young 25-27-year-old दिखता है जिसके अंदर ईगो भी है, एंगर भी है, इमोशन भी है, कंफ्यूजन भी है, एंड एक तरफ आपको एक काम फिलोसफर दिखता है जो who has read things, traveled the world, understood people and is responding. तो दोनों एंगल जब मिलता है, I'll say for me, because I have both the sides within me right now. While I was writing the book and I keep giving talks, I am on the philosopher side. But when I'm out on my own journey, I'm on the kid side. So when I read both, I think I feel very much aligned with the conversation.
So we come to the most interesting part of the podcast where you have to ask a question. What's the question you have for me?
A question I have in mind.
For me.
Oh, that then I have like multiple questions because I think so. My question is because I have gone through your journey of when you were doing your first full distance triathlon race, right? And you had a lot of doubt when you were doing that because I think the kind of plan which was there, and then you were following it, and then you were thinking whether you'll be able to do it or not do it, do it or not do it. There was a lot of every time when you used to finish something, a cycle say 100 kilometers, 150, used to come and ask कि यार ये इतना अगर यहाँ पे हो रहा है तो वहां पर इस तरीके से होगा कैसे होगा. So what was your go-to thought, or I'll say motivation, every time when you have a doubt, after every training session when you have a doubt, what was your go-through thing which used to clarify it, or say बादल छट जाते थे उसके बाद?
Saying this to you, but yes, this conversation with you were quite instrumental in all possible doubts. I think the biggest doubt I had was with regard to swimming because I was swimming in pool all the time. And
Right.
See, I didn't go to open water at all before I jumped into the open water in Kazakhstan. And that was the biggest doubt. And you had told me that, you had actually changed my philosophy completely. I used to think that open water is tougher than pool because, But then you said in pool, you're restarting, right? While you're
correct.
getting that advantage of touching the borderline in the pool, which you don't get in the open water, but you're restarting. So you have to, whereas in open water, if you get the flow, you can go in
Hmm.
the flow and go on till you reach the buoy and have to turn back, right? So I think that was a big saving grace. And I think I still remember that long conversation we had where you shared your first journey at South Point Mall. We had that discussion and you made
Yes, I
it so
remember.
simple. And I
I
think
think
that
mentally simple हो
simplicity
जाता है तो फिर physically कुछ बचता नहीं है.
नहीं रहता. That's true.
I have one
So
more question. So you are also into, investing and mentoring startups, right?
yeah,
And which are mostly, say, young people, who are in their 25, 30s, 35, right?
yeah,
And you have done a triathlon where, so at both places, one thing is common, which is doubt and anxiety, confusion. Startup को start कर देना is very easy. Triathlon
yeah.
enroll कर लेना is very easy. But scaling up the startup to a different level and then scaling up the mileage of the triathlon race is very different. And they both go through same. What is more easy? Telling and teaching yourself and coming to a conclusion, or helping them to come to a conclusion? Which was more tough or which was more easy for you?
Anyway, doing myself.
Okay.
हमारी बात आती है ना. The other thing I
And
wanted
you're
to
saying
share.
telling yourself is more tougher than teaching them, right?
No, teaching them is more
Okay.
difficult. Doing myself is much more easier. And in fact,
Hmm.
the follow up to the first question, everything you face in life, the choice is with you whether it's easy or difficult.
True.
अगर आप चॉइस के टाइम में उसको बोलोगे डिफिकल्ट है इसलिए कर रहा हूँ तो आपको हमेशा डिफिकल्ट लगेगी इवन आफ्टर यू फिनिश इट यू गो अराउंड सेइंग पीपल के डिफिकल्ट था बट अगर आप
True.
करने के पहले ही आपने उसको मान लिया था ये टास्क इजी है मैं कर रहा हूँ तो वो करने के बाद भी आपको इजी लगेगा यू विल नेवर फील कि हाँ
ये
मेरे को प्रॉब्लम आएगी.
I said the same, when we came back from Europe after a month and I was talking to some triathletes and they said, अरे यार next race में ना वहां जाते हैं वहां का elevation या यहाँ पे flat है यहाँ पे ये हमने कहा what, that's the problem if you ask me. हमारा पहला रेस हमने क्यों सेलेक्ट किया था because it was my birthday and we did not even see कि स्पेन मलोरका का जो ट्रायथलॉन है उसका रेस क्या है. हमको तो आइडिया नहीं था कि कोर्स देखना होता है. हमने कहा तो 27 सितंबर करना है, 26 की रेस कर लेते, रजिस्टर किया, चले गए, फिनिश भी कर लिया. आज तक नहीं लगा कि बहुत टफ थी. Second race we did is South Africa, where actually people have died because swimming is the toughest and cycling is also hilly. But हमें नहीं लगा कि वो भी हमने फिनिश किया. Why? Because it was one of the cheapest triathlon. कि इंडिया से सस्ता है, जाना है. So I was telling these people, I said, we did our first two races before Ultraman were both which people now don't go for as their first, second, third because it's one of the toughest. Right? हमने नहीं because हमने उसको उस एटीट्यूड से देखा ही नहीं. हमने नहीं देखा कि वो हिली है कि क्या. हमने देखा रजिस्टर कर लिया है, हमें पता है 180 किलोमीटर है, 7.5 घंटे से पहले में खत्म करना है, 42 रन है इतने, ये हमें ये पता है. चाहे वो चढ़ाई हो, ढलान हो, क्या हो, फर्क नहीं पड़ता. राइट. सो वो जो उसको देखने का नजरिया है ना, आई थिंक वो एक बार अगर वो आपने शुरू से लिया कि यार ये एलिवेशन है यहाँ नहीं जाते हैं, इसमें चॉपी वाटर है यहाँ नहीं जाते हैं, देन व्हाइल डूइंग द रेस अगर हल्का भी कुछ चेंज हुआ, आप यू विल बी शैटर्ड.
That's true.
या
वो अपना फियर हमको
हाँ, आई थिंक फेयर तो नहीं, अपना डाउट वो हमारे फेयर में कन्वर्ट करना चाहते हैं बिकॉज दे सो दे आर नॉट. एंड आई थिंक दिस इज व्हाट आई टेल पीपल. आई सेड इफ यू हैव क्लैरिटी and then if you have a purpose, I tell people, I said clarity, purpose, that purpose will design your priority, that priority will set your habits, and then that will set your lifestyle, right? So अगर clarity होगा तो वो doubt को every time when I was swimming and I used to think यार नहीं हो रहा है, I used to like कि यार अभी तो 1.5 महीने बचे हैं, अगर 2 किलोमीटर कर लिया तो I used to go back to my why am I doing it. हर बार वो पीछे पन्ने पलट के तो देखने ही पड़ते हैं. We all have to go back and try to understand why this step was taken.
This was great. Got to different facets of you and thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for calling. See you soon then.